What's up, Lucky Gamers? It's Lucky Lux, and today we're going to be talking about Asuna. Today, we're going to talk about her skills, her verbs, and teams, and different ways you can use her in the game. So please stick to the end that we can get all the information that I have pretty much compiled about her. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, comment down below what you guys think about Asuna, and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more of this content, and hit the bell notification. That means you guys know when I live stream or when I post a new video. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop into it. Alright, so Asuna is probably going to be one of the strongest characters that you could get while first starting out. She's completely free to play, and she pulls off mad lad single target damage. Honestly, it's a little odd how crazy of a unit they give you for free, right? I mean, she can just pull off a lot with her extra crit that she has. She has defense break on her second skill set, multi-hit, so she can do a lot for you. So let's go ahead and talk about her skills. So on her first skill, Fire Support, attacks a foe dealing 110% of attack physical damage. So I do have the first skill leveled up, giving me the 110% damage multiplier value. On the second, it ignores 10% of target's defense. On the third, increase the damage multiplier to 120%. And then on the fourth, ignores 20% of the target's defense. So in a lot of DPSs, you're going to see the same thing where the new effect's going to ignore 10% of target's defense. That's really effective if you're in between using your SP, right? And you're needing to pull off some decent damage. There you go. You ignore the defense, because there are some tanky enemies, especially when you get further into the abyss, when you're trying to level up through the tower. You're gonna see a lot of enemies, and so this is just gonna help out for you pulling off some extra damage, right? So the second skill, Sniper Mode, increases Asuna's critical chance by 20% and attack by 5% for 3 turns. So this is gonna be her self buff. This is something you want to use right before you use her ultimate, right? You can buff your crit chance, you can get a little extra attack. This is going to be an amazing ability that you could even also cycle to make sure that even her basic attacks hit. You could use it with her second skill set if you wanted. There's many ways you can use this. I mean, a 20% crit chance, they already kind of start low with 5%, so giving her that, she's going to be critting more than most units, and then you can use some verbs to increase it even further, right? So on the first skill level up, reduce the SP cost by 2. On the second, increases Asuna's attack by 10%. On the third, increases Asuna's critical chance by 30% for 3 turns. And on the fourth, reduces SP cost by 2 and increases Asuna's attack by 15%. So leveling this up just makes her even better, allows her to hit harder. I've seen people hit some crazy numbers, especially when you pair her with Kolshare, when you pair her with Kawana, if you pair her with Virginia. Like, there's a lot of units that you can pair her with for her to pull off some crazy damage, honestly. So this is an ability, again, that you want to cycle. You want to make sure you have this pretty much always up whenever you're using Asuna. All right, so on her third skill, it's going to be Headshot. Increases Asuna's crit chance by 10% plus an additional 12% while above 70% HP. This is honestly just going to be a passive. You level this up to just give her even more crit chance. So if we're looking at here, the buff gives you 20%. Then right here, this is another 10, so that's 30% crit chance, right? Well, actually, if you level this up, if you get this level, that's 30%. And then you have another 10, so that's 40%. Plus, if you level this one up, that's another 20%. So that's 60% crit chance with them having already 5. That's 65% crit chance. That's honestly some of the highest in the game that you can get, not counting what you can get on relics in the abyss, which you can do with some verbs. So she's going to be honestly critting all the time compared to other units. So you do want to have this, and if you keep her healthy, you know, you can get this second proc. So leveling up just gives you even more crit. She wants to crit, so obviously put a verb that helps her when she crits. I know there's a purple one that helps for single target crit damage, so use those things on her. Honestly, it's insane how much crit she can get because it ties right into her ult. So Inevitable Finale. Attacks a foe dealing 330% of attack physical damage. When Inevitable Finale critically hits, ignores 50% of target's defense. That is huge. One, it is a gigantic scaling of attack, 330%. Also, ignoring 50% of the target's defense I mean, on a tanky unit or a boss or anything like that, that is a significant amount of defense being ignored, not counting what you could do with other units. You could do stuff with Eclipse to increase the damage that they take. I mean, you could do a lot. You can get Gowanna to buff her attack. Again, like I said, you could really have her stack up some really nice buffs on her and have her hit a tank. Pretty much seen some people one-shot them when they have the right buffs. So yeah, look out for that. On the first skill level up, reduce SP cost by 8. On the second, increase the damage multiplier to 330%. On the third, new effect when inevitable finale critically hits, gain 32 SP. On the fourth, reduce SP cost by 8, increasing the damage multiplier to 360. So first off, third effect, amazing. 32 right off the bat. Whenever you level this up, when we get to level 40, boy, the game is gonna be I'm guessing the enemies are gonna be honestly tanky AF, because there's no way that a unit like this, you can get it down to 64 SP, right? On the third skill, you get half of that back whenever it crits, and you're pretty much always going to crit, right? Like, I mean, I know it's going to be like 65, and I know with some verbs you can get it up to 70, but basically compared to anybody else, that's going to be always critting almost, right? You're getting half of that back. On the Abyss, they have, honestly, relics that give you more SP, and that's not counting the other dolls that can give SP or help SP gain. Like, this this is insane. You have an ult that you can basically just cycle like a regular ability. So it's crazy. And I mean, 360% of attack, that's just buffing it even more. So yes, her first skill set, this character is a must-have for a free-to-play player. You need to use her on any single target fight. I see no reason why not to use Asuna if you're free-to-play. I mean, honestly, she can carry you through a lot of content, especially if you get her out, if you get her memory leveled up, if you get everything leveled up on her, she can do a serious amount of damage just on this first skill set for you. So on her second skill set, Tactical Killjoy. So this is going to be more of her like multi-hit and bleed. She also has a defense break on it. I haven't quite used it super extensively, but I know everything about it. A lot of people have told me about it. I have like Maple who's used it, Kenshin in my Discord, they've used it, so they told me a lot about it. So on this first one, attacks a foe in the front row, dealing 100% of attack physical damage. So this one doesn't hit every enemy like the first skill set does. The first skill set can hit the front and the back row. This one is just going to be up front. On the first skill level up, increase the damage multiplier to 110%. On the second, increases the damage by 20% against foes with bleed. So that's going to be its new effect. On the third, increase the damage multiplier to 120%. Then on the fourth, increase the damage by 40% against foes with bleed. So if you're running a bleed team, this is where you're going to want to pretty much use Asuna. She's getting a 40% extra buff against those bleed targets. So while you're waiting to gain some SP, you can do some decent damage, especially if you have like Nicolette on your team, if you have Ruri on your team, the other healer in Minardwin. So you can get some pretty nice damage with bleed with her as well. On her second skill, attacks Rupture, attacks a foe in the front row 2 times, dealing 2 approximately 75% of physical damage, and increasing the target's damage taken from bleed by 30% for 2 turns. And then the bleed effect, at the end of each turn, the target takes 2% of the attacker's attack bleed damage, and this is stackable. So a couple of things here. So 1, this hits twice, so he can break shields. 2, it's going to increase the target's damage taken from bleed. So if you have like a Nicolette, right, and then you have Minardwin, you can honestly get some pretty insane bleed procs on targets. And then I know on Abyss, there is a relic that gives you like 50 stacks of bleed at the beginning. So again, I have people who I've talked to, people in the Discord who are running a bleed team. Actually, there's like 2 or 3, and their bleed teams are carrying them through content right now. Bleed is something that is a little crazy, especially if you have an attacker that has an insane amount of attack. I'm seeing them honestly just stall fights with bleed, and it's pretty crazy. And Asuna is a unit who can help you with that. So on the first skill level up of this, it's going to reduce the SP cost by 2, increase the damage multiplier to 83%. On the third, increases the target's damage taken from bleed by 60% for 2 turns. And on the fourth, reduce SP cost by 2, increasing the damage multiplier to 90%. So when you get this fully leveled up, not only do you have 2 instances of a 90% of attack physical damage, you also increase the target's damage taken by 60% of bleed damage. So again, bleed team, you can make it happen. You can honestly have a boss just bleed himself out to death with other bleed units, especially if you're stacking that bleed high. I don't know what the max stack of bleed is. I don't know if it's infinite, but I'm confident that you can get some insane bleed damage with other units that use bleed. So if you are free to play and you're just saving all your gems, this is probably this second skill set, obviously is not as great for you because you don't start off with any bleed characters like that. But when you do, right, because we just had some Verbs on the banner that gave extra bleed damage. Yeah, Asuna can be that one for you. So on the third skill, Foresight, reduces a foe's defense by 20% for 2 turns. So first off, this is a 20% defense break right here. We saw that on Virginia. She had a defense break on her ultimate, but this right here is a skill. It's 30 SP cost. Of course, you can lower it, but this is honestly an easy way to start your DPS rotation. Once you break that shield, you can proc this. You have 2 turns. You could probably use this a couple of times, right, for her to debuff and buff up bleed users. So you can honestly use her like a support, right? You can put her a little bit tanky to make sure that she's able to debuff the targets and make sure that she stays alive. So on the first skill level up, it's going to reduce the SP cost by 4, so that brings it down to 26. It's not bad. Reduces the foe's defense by 30% for 2 turns, so that's even more defense break. On the third, dispels 1 beneficial effect from the target. So if the boss has extra attack, if it has extra defense, if it has extra healing, anything like that, you can not only debuff their defense, but you can take off that beneficial buff that they have. And then on the fourth level up, reduce the SP cost by 2% and reducing a foe's defense by 40% for 2 turns. So you already have, like, if you use this in combination with her ult or something like that, right? If you want to just be a mad lad, her ult ignores 50% already. Then you have this third where it's going to reduce it by 40%. Honestly, it might be diminishing returns, but either way, you're able to make a lot of these bosses and enemies have absolutely no defense when you attack, because there's other ways to lower defense with like stacking Eclipse with Virginia. Remember how I said she's a decent unit? You can again make bosses take straight up true damage from you if you combo these units correctly. This is very cheap, a 24 SP defense break that also debuffs a beneficial effect on the target. It's a good skill. It's a very good supportive skill that could help somebody else do a sick amount of damage. On her fourth skill, Bloody Carnival, attacks a foe in the front row, dealing 300% of attack physical damage and inflicting mutilation for 2 turns. So first off, huge scaling, 300% of attack, and then she reduces the defense of the target by 2% per stack of bleed up to 30%. So that's 15 stack of bleed, pretty much that you need for this to be at its max. So that's another 30% defense break. And then we already talked about on the third skill, that's a 40% break when you have it leveled up all the way. So yeah, we're looking at honestly a serious bleed debuffer. You need her on a bleed team. When you get like Nicolette, Minerdwin, Ruri, you can get some pretty good numbers. I'm telling you, I've seen people do it. I've heard them talk about it. On the first skill level up, reduce SP cost by 8. On the second, increase the damage multiplier to 330%. On the third, new effect increases the damage by 1% per stack of bleed on the target up to 40%. And on the fourth, reduces SP cost by 8, increasing the damage multiplier to 360%. So you have an ult that can attack multiple foes in the front row. It reduces their defense. And then on the third effect, it increases their damage per 1% stack of bleed on the target up to 40%. So if you have 40 stacks of bleed, not only do you get the reduction of defense, you get where they take more damage on bleed. You have the second skill that allows them to take 60% more damage of bleed. I mean, come on. I'm not sure if these values are additive or multiplicative, but this is where I'm saying you could probably get bleed procs that hit harder than some dolls ultimates, honestly, with what I'm looking at here. So again, this is a free unit that they have given you, and she can do a lot. The only reason why I don't have her leveled up is because I don't have a perfect bleed team yet, but I have the units. I just need to pretty much get my Verves up and everything, but I've been working on other teams. But I will be doing a bleed team. I will be showing you guys how crazy it is. It's just, of course, it takes like probably a month to get the whole team ready and everything like that, especially with me about to hit level 40. I'm gonna have to be farming like crazy, but I will show you guys a bleed team. All right, and so Asuna being a free unit, remember they do have the trainee or something event that you can get her shards from. And then you also have the Abyss. I forgot to say that about Virginia and Freesia. Also, they are free units that you can get their shards from. All of the free units are pretty much units that you can get free shards, so you can get a lot of these traits already unlocked for you, right? So on her first trait, Locked and Loaded, will lock and load, increases Asuna's critical damage by 15% while above 50%. And critical chance by 8% against foes under 50%. So this right here is where her ultimate, if you use it on a foe that has, you know, pretty much full health, 50% above, her crit's gonna hit a lot harder, right? On her ability, this is gonna help you out to pretty much one-shot a lot of enemies. And then if by chance they don't die, then she's gonna have like a little extra execute ability where she can crit even harder, where we said she already had 65% crit on herself, then she can get up to 73% right there. So that's pretty good, honestly. On the second, Sharp Tongue, when Asuna deals direct damage, inflict 2 stacks of bleed with a 50% chance. So there goes her extra bleed that she can afflict on the target with other units that can afflict bleed. So that just helps her out on her second skill set. On the third trait, Locked and Loaded, increase the critical damage to 15%. So it might have been 10% before I had this leveled up. And then the 8% might have been 5%. And then the 2 stacks, it might have been 1 stack, right? And then on the fourth trait, it increases the critical damage to 20% and then the crit chance to 10% and increases the chance of inflicting bleed by 100%. So when you get her up to a 5-star, that's where she's even crazier. She gets 15% extra crit damage when a target's above 50%, which is going to help you one-shot bosses. And if they're not, then you're going to have a 10% extra buff. So either way, she's going to have like 75% or above crit. And then she'll be able to stack bleed whenever she does direct damage. And we were talking about direct damage. I believe that's when they don't have a shield. We're actually hitting their health. But you're able to help stack bleed. She has an attack that does 2 instances of damage. You can do her basic to help stack bleed, just helping out, honestly. And then you have all her skills that can pretty much make the enemy take even more damage from bleed. So you could honestly, in the early game, use her on her own to help herself stack bleed, and then hopefully if you get a bleed unit, it'll just be even better, right? So with Asuna, you do want to make sure that you level up her memory and her sigils. She gets quite strong whenever you have her memory and sigils leveled up because you give her those flat values, right? One, you can make sure that she's a little tanky and has HP to survive on her second skill set because she's mainly debuffing the targets and making them take more damage from bleed. And on the first skill level up, you're upping her attack, which is allowing her chance to one-shot a lot of enemies. And then also it helps her second skill set, that way she does more on her attacks because they have high scaling as well. So again, just make sure you get those flat values up. The memory and sigils honestly can change a character even more so than the skill level ups themselves. Yes, they give a lot of power and extra effects, but the memory and the sigils is what changes a character from a mediocre one to an amazing one, honestly. So the same thing, this unit here is going to be perfect for the free-to-play team because you have Asuna and Lily here who are both going to be doing single target crits. Lynn is going to up the amount of damage that the target takes from physical critical attacks. Freesia can buff their critical damage. Virginia can up the squad's physical attack. And then also Lynn can lower defense. So this squad, again, is going to be an amazing team to use, all on their first skill level ups. Sultide really wanted to make sure that your first team that you get is a solid team, and this team for single target is really solid. Now, like I said, for a pure bleed team, now there's a couple of units that you could use for this bleed team. I know a lot of people love Cold Share. You can use her, you can use a different tank. But if you're wanting to do a pure physical team, this is one team that you could possibly use if you're just wanting to do a mono element. And I'm not going to get into every single team because there's a bunch of combinations that you could do. But you're going to have Asuna and her bleed set on her second skill. In other words, when she can heal and also increase the squad's bleed damage. Levira, she's going to increase the amount of physical damage that the target takes, and she on her ult can distribute that to everybody. Dresden is a self-healing tank, meaning that Menard, when she's like a decent healer, but she's not an OP healer, she's mostly buffing bleed damage. You want a tank that can self-heal herself, and then also up the amount of damage that the targets take from physical attacks as well. And then Nicolette is going to be honestly the queen of this bleed damage. We have everybody here buffing up honestly for Nicolette, because Nicolette can spread out that bleed quite insane. And you could also flex Rory in here if you're wanting a more explosive bleed damage procs, right? Instead of just spreading it out. Rory is gonna also do a bunch of bleed damage. You could probably take out somebody on this team. You could probably take out Levira if you didn't want her, and just use Menardwin and Asuna to debuff, right? And then put in Rory. It's however you want to do it, right? Like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can go, but this is more so for people who aren't just using the straight up free-to-play units that you have. If you've summoned a couple of people, these are units that have honestly been on a banner, so some people would have them, and that's why I'm mentioning these people here. Also, I do want to include, because I know somebody's going to say it down in the comment section or somewhere on Reddit, Colshare, and a lot of you guys are pretty much re-rolling for this unit. She is a wonderful and perfect unit to have with Asuna, because she's allowing Asuna to proc her ult twice. This is where Asuna, like I was saying, can one-shot bosses, because her first instance of damage is going to be ridiculous, and then on the second with Colshare's Echo, it's going to hit hard as well. So I didn't really want to go in depth on Colshare. I want to wait till I do a Colshare guide and how crazy that she is for people. But I know a lot of you guys are re-rolling for her, and I know some of you are probably waiting for me to make a guide on her and talk about her, which I will. I just want to get some of the free-to-play characters out of the way first, versus, some people didn't quite re-roll the game. They didn't really know about that. Now for Verbs, there are a lot of good Verbs. There's Verbs that they've given out. If you got the Battle Pass, Evoker's Pass, you have Valkyrie, a really good one to stack, especially if you have a multi-hit on your Asuna. You have Ace, which is also given out as well. This is ignoring target's defense. You have a couple of them, honestly. You have the bleed ones that came out if you're using your second set. This is going to improve bleed and then allow you to do even more. Now, of course, it could be used better on somebody else, but it's here. And then you have also Little Hibiscus. This is also for bleed damage. For physical, on her first set, you could use Silencer, where her ultimate does extra damage when it's the first time she ults, if you're just going for just ult burst. You have, if you need her to go first, if you wanted to, you could use Dragon Hunter, where she gets extra damage. You have Scarlet Hellcat. This increases her crit damage with single target attacks, and that's all she really has. So this is going to up her crit damage by 25% and then another 6%. So you can get some really nice procs on that. You have Onslaught. This is going to increase the damage that they take from physical attacks. You have Voracious. This is going to increase the damage that they take from while being vulnerable, and then also gives her extra damage done. I mean, I don't have all the verbs in the game, but those are just a few that you could use, honestly, with her. Oh, you also have Crimson Storm, which empowers the single target's attack to inflict extra attack. So a lot of options that you could have that you could use. You could even use Blade Dancer that gives her extra crit chance, and whenever she crits, she increases her attack. So, like, I could go on and on about some of these verbs that you could use. Conqueror, especially if you're going to do a burst with her, just trying to one-shot a target. So, like, yeah, there's a lot of verbs that you could use. It just depends on which ones that you have. pretty much limit broken, depending on what you're wanting to use with her, the team that you're wanting to use. But those are just some of the verbs that you could, possibly combine with. All right, so that's pretty much all I have for Asuna. Remember, you do want to get her shards from the blooming part of novice. That way you can get her extra traits. Her first skill, remember, that is a ult burst that you want to use to kill bosses. Combine that with cool share. On her second, she's going to be doing a lot of bleed. Now, if you have her traits leveled up, she can do the bleed on her own, or if you've summoned a lot of the bleed characters that I showed you, then you can use her for that and supporting the bleed characters. So remember, this unit is free and she's amazing. Level her up and use her if you're needing somebody for some high single target damage, or if you're wondering who to use. I've seen a lot of people in the Reddit in different groups asking who do you want to use. Asuna is perfect for that, and investing in her will not hurt you at all. But if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. Comment down below what you guys think about what I thought about Asuna. If you have anything more to add, I would love you to put your extra opinions in, because I take everyone's opinion in consideration. And also subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoy this content and you want more of it, and click the bell to let you guys know when I live stream or when I upload the next video. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You lucky gamers, have a good one. Lucky Lucks out.